Okay, so my name is Paula Blomquist, and I am currently the Chief Marketing and Merchandising Officer at iMart Express. I've been in this role now almost 4 years, and I'm loving optic. It is an industry that I see as so exciting and has such opportunity. When you think about our industry, it's a combination in that amazing intersection of healthcare and retail and fashion. And when you put those three very emotional for customer categories together, and from a service and a product perspective in terms of opportunity, the industry has such potential as well as such historical success that it just makes for it to be such an exciting time. Our conversation today is going to be, I entitle it Manage Things and Lead People, because I think in this day and age, and with such great opportunity in optics, it really stretches both our leadership skills as well as our managerial skills. But when to use each, I think sometimes comes to question, and even what's the difference. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This talk is really all about you and thinking through things like strategy, creating goals, and building teams. So when I think about my own journey here at iMart, we are going to be 30 years old in 2020. So we are 29 years old. And we really started with some real humbleness, if you would, if that's a word. But our roots are really humble. Dr. Barnes started it. It's a family-run business up until a few years ago. And we started out with very modest things. If you take a look at that bottom photograph, we literally started out with card tables and boxes of frames in a very sparse room. We've grown the brand and we've grown the company to almost 200 stores today, where we're really making a presence out there in the space of value optical. We are in 37 states right now, and we've expanded as Chief Merchant and Chief Marketing Officer. I have had to help the company come from those family-driven roots and expand both those strategies to reach and be with our customers in new and different ways. So the things that I have to manage as a Chief Marketing Officer, I manage lead our team to actually manage many things. So we spend our time developing product. We spend our time developing things like our websites, new and interesting ways to reach our customers like email programs and direct mail programs. That bottom right photograph is even iMart showing its advertising in cinema and down there on bus wraps. So these things obviously have evolved, and the way we need to reach our customers evolved so quickly. Those of you who are trying to keep up with your own customers know that it has to be on their terms, and we have to reach them in new and different ways to keep their attention or to get their attention through all the clutter out there. So as a marketer, you can get very lost in managing all of these tactics and managing the everyday work. But what you really need to do is lead and take a step back and let the tactics happen. But hopefully you're leading your teams in a way and shaping those tactics so you're getting the most out of the team. You're doing the most fruitful things for your efforts. And at the end of the day, taking a little time to think through strategy and set proper goals and build the right team actually saves you time. It makes things a little bit easier. It focuses your attention. And I believe that your teams will appreciate it. So I'm quickly just going to go through creating strategy. And this, this one is my favorite slide. If you're going to take note or take a picture, take a photo, this is the slide that I love. If you think about incremental thinking versus exponential thinking, It's a very different state of mind. And a lot of us, as we build our strategies and formalize our plans, we spend a lot of time on the left side, right? We come up with very realistic goals. We make a plan. We try to minimize our risk. We try to standardize things because that makes things easy, makes things scalable. We try and centralize our decision making, right? We all have executive teams or leadership teams, and we try to lead by, as a smaller group, we make collective decisions about priorities for our company, for our teams. We expand our authority. And ideally, what we're doing is we're making our numbers. And at the end of the day, if you get a 10% growth, that's a win. In fact, in this day and age, that's a huge win. But I'm encouraging all of you to take a few minutes and think about how you can change your thinking and think a little bit more broadly and begin to think about things like ambitious goals versus realistic goals. Ask yourselves, are you stretching yourself, your executive team, your CEO, wide enough? Are you thinking beyond what at the moment seems most realistic? Have a vision versus a plan, right? Plans can change. When we're in retail, especially in the optical world, if we've got a change in a doctor or a change in one of our labs, or even the weather, right? These are things that you can't plan for. You can't have all of the things that can possibly change around a given plan. But if you have a vision, right, if you can stretch that plan, there are elements of that vision that you can hold on to, and your tactics may over time begin to morph to more align with a broader vision versus a plan. And I'm not saying you go nuts with it, right? You still have to have your financials and you still have to have your short-term goals. But that vision and holding it dear and making sure your team understands where you're going is something very important. Maximizing learning versus risk is something that I've personally tried to live by and extend to my teams. That means that you're having an environment where it's okay to fail. It's okay to try things. And in this day and age, when we're not quite sure sometimes what will work or not work with our finicky customers out there, I think setting an environment that maximizing learning, good or bad, and applying those learnings is something that will get you ahead. Personalization, that's something that everyone is striving for, at least from a consumer perspective. But you might need to apply this to your teams, your best customers, things like that, versus standardized kind of same old things over and over again. There's an art to doing that in terms of mass customizing potentially your approach versus just having it standardized across everything. Empowering decision makers, especially at the front line in retail specifically, this is something that I've seen work very well. There's somewhat control over that, but when your front lines feel that they can take care of a business situation within their store or within their unit, like a distribution center or something like that, they're more engaged, they're taking ownership, especially when it comes to solving customer situations, good or bad. That empowerment is something that's important. Expanding influence, this is something that we all should try and adhere to. It's tapping into your networks. It's tapping into lookalike companies, or sometimes even the oddest of partnerships work for you. It's how do you get your name out there in new and different ways through relevant partnerships or relationships. And that kind of touches into growing your network versus just constantly focus on growing your numbers. Things like Uber and things like Waze, these are all digital examples of how influence and co-creativity and things like that have made those services a success. So if you think about your own world, how could you move along this spectrum? Start on the left, moving to the right, and guarantee you'll see things more change or more results above the 10% norm that we normally strive for, and then you're turning into, X time, 10 times, 5 times, 3 times. Before coming to iMart, I was Chief Marketing Officer at Michael's Arts and Crafts. And we use this spectrum to kind of push our thinking to become the leader in the arts and crafts space. And elements of this certainly worked so well. So I encourage you to study this slide and see how you can quickly apply it to your own world. As far as setting goals, we touched upon this under the strategy. Remember, we said, kind of strive for, have your realistic goals, but push for your ambitious goals. And both here in iMart and previous places where I have had leadership positions, this was big. You want to have those stretch goals. You want to try and reach for the sky a little bit, but you can't do it in a reckless way. So these 5 things, I think I've personally actually put into play, and it seems to work well. So the first one is manageable steps. So if you're going to set a huge goal and really go for it and be ambitious, you do want to milestone and celebrate those wins. Muscles, and we conversations. Oh my gosh, in 90 days, look what we've accomplished. We may not get into that ambitious that we said we're making certain strides, and you have to celebrate them. Telling that, learning from it, and moving forward to be part of the journey to reach your goals. And rallying the team is something that, again, these campfire stories can help with as you celebrate your short-term wins. And be relentless. As a leader, we can't give up. And even if we're seeing that there's a mountain, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get over it. And you got to kind of keep them going. You have to, again, celebrate those short wins. It's also working with your leadership team and your peers in management to make sure that they're also, because everybody has dependencies in an organization, especially in retail. With merchandising and marketing under my leadership, I really can't get anything done successfully without successful partnership from the store operations, from our HR organization, from our distribution center, our finance team. So here with our CEO, we've actually laid out, we have huge goals. We're a growing retailer. We're about to be 30 years old. We're on a track to open 25 to 30 stores now consistently. We have to basically set our reasonable goals and then celebrate them as we go, as we strive for those most ambitious goals that we've put in writing. So I think these 5 things, study them, take a look at them, see what you can start to do immediately. I've seen some great results from them. And then finally, I'm going to steal some content on our last part, which is building teams, from Allison Levine. And I have had the privilege of actually meeting with Allison. And Allison is a woman that she's done extraordinary things. And I've suggested here you may want to take a look at her book. It's called On the Edge. But we're going to talk about teams and how to build successful teams. And I have been so fortunate to have amazing people around me throughout my whole career. And there's definitely an art to building a team. So Allison actually is, she's known as someone who has achieved the Adventure Grand Slam, which means that she's climbed the highest peak on every continent, and she's skied both the North and South Poles. So that's pretty extraordinary. She's also survived Wall Street, so that's another extraordinary thing. And now she's a great author. She's writing books. She's coaching people. She's really an amazing person. And she's, when you talk to her, She basically believes that leadership is everyone's responsibility. It's not just the sole responsibility of the C-level executives or the management team. And it's really all of us are leaders. And when you make up a team, everyone has a role. So when she says that she's building a team, and if you think about it, if you're hiking these very dangerous peaks or you're skiing across the poles, every single person that is present matters, right? Every decision you make is critical. It's life or death situations. She went on these peaks, and when she was climbing Everest, she was very close. In fact, she was less than, I think, a half a mile from the peak, and she had decided, and with the team, to turn around because it was much too dangerous to make it to the top due to weather and winds and things like that. So as leaders, and when you're building teams, you have to be able to make these critical decisions if you're going to meet those ambitious goals, right? If you're going to have an environment of risk-taking. So the advice that she gave, and now that I'm giving you, when you're building the team, are these 5 things. You need ego. And a lot of people think that ego is a very negative term, but it's not personal ego. You want to look for someone who has performance and team ego. They want to be part of a team. The team comes first before themselves. Ego is personal ego. Maybe not so much, but this is what you're really talking about and when you're looking for in a person. When she was interviewing people for her summit climbs, the people who were saying to her, if I don't get selected, it's okay, but I want to come to the camp and I want to help you guys get there no matter what my role is. And those are the type of people she was looking for. This came up again with her. Failure is an option. You're looking for risk takers. You need them on your team. Think about your current teams that you're leading. Do you have a proper makeup of people who have the ability to make proper risk that can take you forward? Or is everyone playing it safe? And that leads into the 3rd bullet, which is fear is okay. It's okay to be afraid. I'm afraid every day, right? We're in retail. It's crazy out there. But complacency is what will kill you. And if you think about it, backing up is not the same as backing down. And I think sometimes we don't take enough time to just stop, push the pause button and say, okay, we need to maybe rethink this. We're going into dangerous territory, but you don't want to linger. You don't just want to sit there because the competition will take over, and that's tough. It's tough to make up ground. So failure is an option. Look for your risk takers. Understand that fear is okay, but don't stay still for so long. Everyone is a leader. I believe that. I try and instill this in my team. Everyone on your team is a leader. They own their own career. They own their progression. We have independent development plans here that my leadership team spends time with the people on who do all of our marketing and merchandising. We try to let everyone know that they are a leader, and I think if you have to find people that actually understand that, no matter what level that they are at. And again, I think it's everyone's responsibility to take ownership of the team's goals, what we're trying to do, and especially themselves. And then finally, this was a big lesson for me from her. If you have a weaker team member, right away we think maybe we need to replace them, or maybe they're just not a good fit for our companies. But she talked through actually exploring a different role. In one of the climbs, she was the only female on the team, and they all had different roles that they had to play, whether they had to pack up the tent or carry certain things. And she was very honest when she realized that she was slowing the team down. And what her lead did was she changed roles. She actually dug the snow holes at night to put certain supplies in. And she dug everyone's. And in exchange for the other guys who had some bigger upper body strength, actually carried some of her load for her. So he redistributed the work based upon what the team member was fit to do. And what resulted is they were able to keep up with their time, because time and weather is very important to align when you're hiking up a peak. I personally don't know about that, but that's what she said. And she learned a real lesson from that, is the weaker team member doesn't necessarily need to go away. You just might need to use their skills a little differently. So in terms of building teams, in summary, you want to look for those team ego players. You want to really try and instill this idea of taking risks. And remember, that kind of tags back to the first topic, which was building your strategy. So if you think about yourself moving from one end on the spectrum, on the strategic slide that we talked about, you're really going to need to think about, do you have the right people to help build and then bring these strategies to life? You're looking for people where fear is okay, but they're not going to just sit and stand like a deer in the headlights, right? Backing up is not the same as backing down. Everyone is a leader, and then exploring those different roles. There's the link for her book. And, the OWAs, we've got reading lists, as you guys know. And we've actually leveraged the reading list from the OWA a lot here at IMART. We have a book club. We meet probably every other month or something, once a month, on Friday morning, and we discuss the books from the OWA. This one we may add to our reading list. It's really well done, and keeps you on the edge of your seat, which is kind of fun. So in summary, these are more Paula-isms than anything. Getting back to your basics go a long way. So as you think about, stretching your strategy and going for those exponential things and elements of your plan, remember to have your basics in place, because the foundation in what you do is always very important. Give your team room. I always joke, I give them enough room until they're going to hit the wall, and then I try and stop them right before, and kind of, as you get, I want to say long in the tooth, but that's kind of not a good thing to say. But as you get to this stage, as a chief and an officer in our company, you kind of know in your gut and even through the numbers what we're supposed to be doing, but you got to give them room to make mistakes. You got to give your people room to find the wins on their own and the magic in what you do. You just kind of got to, you need to just make sure they're not going to really hit their heads too hard. And that's a philosophy that I have. Have a recovery plan when things are going awry. This idea of what's the journey everybody's on. As a leader, that's your job. That's your job, to be the biggest cheerleader you possibly can be, and really give that vision. Instead of just talking about the tasks that you need to do, what is that vision that everybody can aspire to? And keep that fresh and alive in new and different ways. So I highly recommend that. I'm leaving with a quote from the very first woman who climbed Mount Everest. That was not Allison, although she soon did climb it. Obviously, she climbed all 3 peaks. But technique and ability alone do not get you to the top. It is willpower that is most important. This willpower you cannot buy with money or be given by others. It rises from your heart. So with that, I don't know if anyone has any questions, but my assistant here, Alex, is going to help me look through the questions. She's on my team. Today is her birthday, so happy birthday, Alex. Anyone have any questions about the strategy part or setting goals, team building? I can throw some questions out there for you guys. When you think about your current goals, I guess, it's April, so I'm assuming everyone has set their goals for the year. I ask if you guys have a check-in period. We do a mid-year review with all of our leaders as well as our people to kind of just check in to see if everyone is have any questions or struggling with certain goals. By the time the mid-year comes, sometimes goals don't make sense, right? The markets have changed, the business have changed. I guess my question to the broad audience out there is, do you guys have mechanisms currently in place to adjust those goals based upon what's been going on within your company or how your results are doing? Can you influence those goals in any way? Can you get things on track? And how has anybody done that successfully? Sure. I think one thing we're looking at is obviously as a retailer, we have all sorts of metrics that we measure at our store level. We're starting to look at those metrics both through the customer as well as the needs of the business. So, and accordingly, going to make some focus area adjustments for our team. And it's really just based on how we're seeing customers interact with both our competition as well as our own brand. So that's a mechanism that we've put in place, is to, yes, there's a plan, but we want to make it as fluid as possible to adjust based upon how we see our customers reacting to some of the things that we're putting out there. Another question might be, if you've read Allison's book or if you've heard of her, does anybody have any point of view on the book or anything that they've taken from it? All right. Goal setting, I think going back to that slide, the idea of laying out manageable steps and celebrating the short-term wins. We use an intranet here at iMart Express, so I'm not sure if how all of you communicate to both your home offices, or if you have multiple offices across different countries or parts of the country. We certainly have most of our employees are out in our stores. We have a platform called Chemistry, and it's where we actually share the goodness. We share stories, we share milestones, we celebrate anniversaries, we celebrate sales milestones. It's a great way to just do exactly what this advice here is saying, is to celebrate the small wins. Let our people know outside of our home office the role that they're playing in the bigger picture, in the bigger vision. And it's just a great way to get the stores and our different offices around the country connected. We also use a learning platform called Exonify. That's a great platform out there that we are using to educate our stores. It's all based on a pretty modern concepts of learning theory. And it's all mobile driven, and our stores actually not only have some fun and playing some games on it, but it's a great way to learn different content and different ways to learn about some of the strategies that we're putting out there. So between a communication platform and an intranet called Chemistry, and then through Exonify, these are two ways that we are educating our teams on changing goals and strategies, or on the set plan. We talk about our vision, and then we celebrate the small wins. So as you guys think about potential investments and how you guys need to improve communication across your companies or improve training approach, these two ideas have just worked wonders here for us. Thank you, guys. If anyone has any additional questions, I could be found on LinkedIn, and my email information is in there. So thank you for joining us on our Tuesday talk, and I hope everyone leaves with a nugget or two to think about. Thank you.